What's going on, guys? In today's episode we are back at Collector Con Penrith, our biggest toy fair here in Sydney, on the hunt for 80s and 90s goodness. Let's see how we go. Today's toy hunt picked up right where the last one left off, Uncle T's Toys. In my last video we checked out Uncle T's Toys HQ up in Newcastle. Today we're starting the day at Tony's stall. Tony had a ton of cool stuff, from carded supernaturals and rock lords to some really cool knockoffs, but the first thing that really stopped me in my tracks was a complete in-box vintage TMNT sewer playset, something I still don't have in my collection. But Collector Con has 300 tables of toys and other collectibles, and I try not to tip out my wallet at the very first one, but I was definitely thinking about it with that awesome sewer playset. My first pickup of the day was a figure from the 1990 Playmates Dick Tracy line that I spotted at the table of a regular seller. Now I'm getting relatively close to completing the line of Playmates Dick Tracy figures, the blank notwithstanding, but I'm still chasing a few accessories for a couple of the figures, including Prune Face. And I spotted a Prune Face there on the table with his detonator and with his double barrel Tommy gun, and I had to grab that. Interestingly, a lot of the Dick Tracy figures came with Tommy guns, but Flat Top and Prune Face came with a double barrel version, and I was pretty stoked to see this Prune Face had that double barrel Tommy gun. So now between these two accessories and the ammo belt, which I already have, my Prune Face is complete. The same seller also had a complete in-box Monster Squad board game, which was really cool. I'm a sucker for classic Monster toys and merchandise, and the artwork on this box was really cool. But it's actually based on the 1970s TV show that I don't have a real connection with, having never seen, and unfortunately the Dracula art had a tear on it, so as cool as it was, I decided to give it a miss. The next stall I stopped at was Here for Toys, a strong supporter of my vintage TMNT collection for years now. And at Here for Toys I spotted a couple of figures that I was thinking about, including a 1991 Worm, complete with all of his worms, little tiny accessories that I'm still trying to track down. But the figure that I ultimately settled on was a complete Monty Moose at a price that I couldn't say no to. I love this figure. Unfortunately, the seller alerted me to the fact that one of his antlers has broken, which is a damn shame, but this figure is complete with all of its accessories, including the little sidekick buddy accessory. and it's one of the trickier to find figures here in Australia, and I got an extra discount because of that damage, so I just had to grab it. Monty Moose was released in 1992, by which point I'd moved on from Turtles as a kid, so I didn't know about this figure until I saw it for the first time at Alfie's Toys years ago when I first started collecting, and from the moment I laid eyes on this figure, I wanted it. So I'm stoked to finally welcome Monty Moose into the collection, despite a little bit of battle damage. The next thing that caught my attention was the best selection of vintage Kenner SilverHawks I think I've ever seen in the wild. These things are really uncommon in Australia, especially complete and in beautiful condition with vac metal intact, and the seller had a bunch: Quicksilver, Copper Kid, Bluegrass, Hot Wing, and some of the villains too. It's not a line I'm collecting. I reckon I'd have a crack if they were more affordable, but still super cool to see. As always, Freaky Deaky Toys, our go-to for horror and sci-fi figures, old and new, was at Collector Con, and Deke had a beautiful mint-on card Endo Glow Terminator, my favourite figure from Kenner's Terminator 2 line, so something I was definitely eyeing off, but it's a line that I'm collecting loose, so I decided to save that one for another collector, but Deke went and gifted me a mini Boglin.
There was ones that came in little toilets.
Oh, that is...
slime ones, and they're worth about $100 each.
That's unreal. Alright, what am I going to do? I do know there's like a Rocky looking one with boxing gloves.
So yeah, there's like the Tricksters, there's the Prehistorics.
That's right.
Yeah. It's got boxing gloves.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my guy.
Yeah, the boxing gloves.
I'll go him. Deke, you're the man. I chose Killer from the Tough Guys tribe, so super stoked with that. Big shout out to Deke. Another one of my favourite sellers, Minikins Collectibles, were there, and one of the cool things about the Minikins boys is they bring with them items from their own personal collections just for the rest of us to be able to see and enjoy, and today they brought with them some beautiful sealed Dino Riders, including the Kentrosaurus and Edmontonia. So, you know, a rare opportunity for us to see some beautiful crisp sealed Dino Riders up close. having done a complete lap of Collector Con, I circled back to Uncle T's Toys and spotted an item that I knew I needed to grab, a vintage TMNT plug-in nightlight of Raphael. It's awesome, it's got a fun, cartoony, kind of wacky sculpt, and it's just a perfect example that at this point in time, the early 90s, nothing was off limits as far as TMNT merch.
Your turtle toothbrush. Consult your watch for turtle time. Get your slippers and your turtle underdacks or your turtle apron. Grab your turtle cookies, and if the cartoons haven't started, there's time to read your turtle comics. Sniffing all the while, turtle air freshener. Turtles.
I bundled the TMNT Nightlight with this awesome Real Ghostbusters comic from 1989 with some incredible artwork. When I look at this cover, I can't help but think, why didn't Kenner give us some figures based on these creatures? They just look so sick. And speaking of the Real Ghostbusters, I also bundled in a complete vintage Fright Features Peter Venkman because I needed the gruesome twosome ghost to complete my Fright Features set. So a big shout out to Tony B for a great deal as always. Tony also had a bunch of WWF Hasbro figures, one of my favourite vintage toy lines to collect, including one figure in particular that I'm chasing, the 1992 Macho Man Randy Savage. This figure was a pretty lazy effort from Hasbro, just a very basic repaint of the 1991 Macho King version of the character, with a slight update of the text on the back of the trunks, and ditching the accessories despite the fact that the gripping hand remained in place. Even still, it's a figure I'm chasing to complete the wave, but the paint on this one was just a little bit too gone for my liking, so I decided to save it for another collector, and it got scooped up almost as quickly as I put it down. At this point, I took a quick break from the show and caught up with a couple of good mates and friends of the channel, Matt from Keep On Collecting and Adam, who were doing a bit of a car park trade. Matt was trading his vintage biker mice from Mars for a vintage WWF Hasbro ring with a custom big blue cage. I need to get a quick shot of your custom work here, mate.
It's not me who made it.
Isn't it?
No, LJN Custom Man, 2 N's. He made it, and that guy is slowly getting very famous. He's actually out. He's out this way. He's not far from here.
I'm assuming custom stickers as well, or is that the original?
No, those are the original stickers.
Wow.
Those are the original stickers.
Super clean.
To the best of my knowledge. They are the round ring posts, all original turnbuckles. Yeah. The ropes, I'm pretty confident, are original, but they're knackered.
As they always are.
It's 40 years old. I actually do have a perfect spot for it, though. It will fit in that spot, I'm pretty sure.
I've got a perfect spot for that too.
Adam also hooked us up with a gift, a glow-in-the-dark McNugget Buddy from the 1998 Halloween Happy Meal set, the last one that I needed to complete the set in my collection, and one that Adam actually got back in the 90s, so all the more special. So very much appreciated. Big shout out to Adam, absolute legend for that one. Back at the show, something that caught my attention just because of how unique they were was sets of what I assume were Mexican bootleg wrestling minifigures, each of which came with a ring, and the figures appeared to be somewhat recognizable wrestlers like Ric Flair and Sting, and the card back shamelessly used a photo of Diamond Dallas Page, and the card back had very little information on it, so super weird but really cool. Speaking of weird and cool, Tony B had a set of mint on card Parasites released by Matchbox in 1985, each of which featured a vehicle with a removable, transformable alien robot.
From Haley's Comet come the Parasites.
They hide in cars and trucks.
We'll hide here.
Nemesis the Hunter. You can't hide from him.
I feel like we're being watched.
Terrasite the Parasite Spy watches your every move.
Well, I'm not afraid.
Destructite unfolds to unleash destruction.
Hey, guys.
These things looked awesome with intricate engineering, vac metal and neon colours, and based on the card backs, the origin of Parasites, according to their mythology, was Halley's Comet, which is a pretty cool concept considering that Halley's Comet was last seen in our skies in 1986, so I thought these were really cool to see. At this point, I checked out a stall that's becoming one of my favourites, Taylor Toys and Treasures, and Phil from Taylor Toys and Treasures has been steadily helping me grow my Kenner Superpowers collection, and I wanted to keep that going today. So there was a few figures that I was eyeing off. Phil had an awesome selection of Superpowers, but ultimately I decided to pull the trigger on this 1985 Darkseid, complete and in beautiful condition, and just an awesome looking figure. He's got his cape, he's got that really cool light piping feature to give him those glowing eyes, and I'm stoked to add Darkseid to the shelf. So big shout out to Phil for helping me make my choice and for giving me a nice price on this one. I really appreciate it, mate. And that was it for my pickups today, but as always, there were so many things that I was eyeing off that I didn't pull the trigger on. Everything from vintage muscle blister packs to 1960s Aurora monster model kits, which were absolutely beautiful. There really is so much to see at Collector Con. And just a reminder, if you're thinking about checking out the show, as always, my videos really just focus on the vintage toy lines that appeal to me most, the things that jump out to me. But above and beyond the vintage toy lines that I collect and so much more, you've got everything at Collector Con, from modern toys and collectibles, trading cards, comics, video games, and so much more. If you collect, there really is something there for everybody. Before I wrap up, I've got to show off a couple of awesome gifts from the gents that keep on collecting, who have very kindly hooked me up with this incredible Robin Hood Prince of Thieves promotional display from Coles supermarkets back in the day, which is amazing. And also, check this out. The 1941 film The Wolfman on Super 8. This is incredible. I'm trying to put together a collection of vintage classic monsters, toys and merchandise, and once I do, I think this is going to display absolutely brilliantly. I'm sure as heck not about to buy a Super 8 player anytime soon, but still so cool to have a classic film like this on Super 8 format, but more to the point, just a beautiful display piece once I can eventually get myself some nice vintage Universal Monsters figures to display it with. So massive shout out to Matt and Andrew, this is so very much appreciated, boys. Also, check out this amazing custom card back artwork that Ian from Toybox Collectibles created for me. Ian does some incredible things with custom card back artwork, and he asked me what my favorite action figure was and then made this for me based on the WWF Hasbro Hulk Hogan from 1991, which is quite possibly the most nostalgic toy of my childhood, and I was absolutely blown away when Ian showed me this. This is amazing, so huge shout out to Ian for that one, and definitely check out Toybox Collectibles 2.0 on Facebook. But that'll do us for today's toy hunt. The final Collector Con of the year was an absolute blast, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it this far, you're a dead set champion. I hope to hear from you in the comments. As always, you're more than welcome to hit us up on Instagram at Crusher Collects. I'll see you back soon for the next one, and until then, cheers.